Genshin Impact 6.0 patch, aka Luna 1, will have tons of great 5 stars to wish for, but with 10 different options to choose from, a lot of people are having trouble deciding on exactly who they should get. That's why in this video we'll go over Lauma, Nahida, Yelan, Flins, Dehya, Alhaitham, Wanderer, Cyno, Nilou, and Tighnari's strengths, weaknesses, and pull value for your account. Since there are so many 5 stars to go over, I'll spend more time on Lauma and Flins because they're new, and then go over the other 5-star reruns and tell you who is best for your account, especially since there are so many choices and it can be really daunting to know if you're making a good decision or not. With that being said, if there is someone who you really want, then just wish for them. This guide is designed to help you figure out what these characters can do well and what they struggle with. That way you can best be prepared to play them at their maximum potential. Make sure to like this video if it helps and share it with anyone who may be wondering who to wish for, and let me just extend my thanks right now for doing so because it does really help out a ton. Now let's talk about Lauma, the Dendro Deer Lady that's bringing Bloom back to life. Lauma is a Dendro Catalyst support that is designed to increase the damage of Bloom teams, which include Hyper Bloom and Burgeon. She changes regular Bloom to Lunar Bloom, but unlike reactions like Lunar Charged, Lunar Bloom is exactly the same as regular Bloom, except for in one regard, which we'll discuss when talking about her elemental skill. Speaking of which, Lauma's elemental skill is her main source of damage. She has a tap version, which is situationally good, and a hold version, which is often better. When a character on the team triggers a Bloom reaction, your team gets a Verdant Dew, which looks like a little tiny moon sign, and Lauma can consume all these tiny little moons by using her hold skill to deal high amounts of AoE Dendro damage. Her skill also reduces enemy Hydro and Dendro resistance, and when consuming the Verdant Dew generated by Lunar Bloom, Lauma gains a special Moon Song stack for her elemental burst. And speaking of her elemental burst, it gives her special stacks of a buff called Pale Hymn, which increases the damage of Bloom reactions. This works very similar to Shenhe or Yunjin's abilities, making you lose a stack every time a Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or Burgeon reaction hits an enemy. This also means that if Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or Burgeon hits multiple enemies at once, you'll also consume multiple stacks at once. Using Lauma's hold skill will increase the amount of these Bloom buffing stacks for each little Verdant Moon Dew that you consume. So to put this all in simple terms, you use Lauma and a Hydro source to trigger the Bloom reaction, you get 3 tiny little moons which you can see under your team, you use her hold skill for big AoE Dendro damage, and then use her burst to make your Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon reactions much stronger. But what makes Lauma special is one of her passive abilities that activates after she uses her skill. If you have 2 Nodcry characters on your team, she increases their Lunar Bloom crit rate and crit damage. But if you have only 1 Nodcry character in the team, i.e. Lauma, she allows Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon to crit with a fixed 15% crit rate and 100% crit damage. And that's all just a fancy way to say that if Lauma is the only Nodcry character on your team, she has a 15% chance to double your Bloom, Hyper Bloom, and Burgeon damage. All this is surely enough to make anyone fawn over Lauma, but is she actually worth your Primo Gems? Lauma's personal damage is good. She is designed as a support, but she can still hit for well over 100,000 damage every 12 seconds by using her hold elemental skill. Lauma is far from the best DPS in the game, but she does contribute good damage on top of her being a damage amplifying support character. Lauma's support capability is great. As long as you play a Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or Burgeon team, Lauma is one of, if not the best characters to have on your team. She takes everything that a Bloom team archetype wants and just makes it a lot better. Lauma's team flexibility is good. Lauma wants to be in a Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or Burgeon team, and that doesn't give her the most flexibility, but she can still make up these team archetypes with a variety of characters, most of whom are 4 stars, so she actually has pretty decent team flexibility. Lauma's free-to-play friendliness is great. Lauma is a very easy character to build. She just needs elemental mastery and energy recharge, so she's great for free-to-play players that don't want to be pressured to wish for a signature weapon to max out the high stat requirements that a lot of other characters have. In fact, Lauma does not need her signature weapon at all, and the event weapon, the Everlight Spindle Loot, is perfect for her. But the Nodcry craftable weapon, the Sumeru craftable weapon, and Sacrificial Fragments are also solid choices. And considering the fact that she does very well at low investment with a lot of 4-star characters in a Hyperbloom team, Lauma is a great choice for free-to-play players that want a very strong character but don't want to invest a lot into a team that needs a bunch of different 5-stars. Overall, Lauma is a great character. She has a lot of versatility and she can be played on-field as a Dendro driver or off-field as a support and damage amplifier. Lauma is recommended for newer players or anyone who has Nilou already, or just anyone who wants a good, easy to play team archetype that doesn't need super high levels of investment, but still performs well even in more difficult endgame content. Now let's go over Nahida, the tiny Dendro baby radish god and Archon of Cabbage. Nahida is a Dendro support whose main playstyle revolves around using her elemental skill. It has a press and a hold version, and each version tethers enemies together. Whenever you trigger a reaction on the enemies marked by her skill, it will deal Dendro damage to every enemy marked in the chain. Her skill can also be used to gather items from afar and read the minds of NPCs in Sumeru, which is kinda creepy, but whatever. Nahida's Elemental Burst deals no damage, but it does provide a few buffs. After using her burst, Pyro characters increase Nahida's skill damage, Electro characters in your team make her skill trigger more frequently, and having Hydro characters in your team increases the duration of her Elemental Burst. And it also increases your character's Elemental Mastery by 25% of the character with the highest EM on your team. So how does the Dendro Archon and Tiny Radish of Wisdom stack up against the other characters? And is she still the best cabbage even years after her release? Nahida's personal damage is good. She can deal pretty good damage for a support, but it's hardly game breaking. Her potential for AoE damage is nice, and she can do all of this from off-field, but she definitely struggles in content with waves of enemies. Because if you're not using her on field and new waves of enemies keep spawning, you would have to switch to Nahida to reapply her skill. Oftentimes that would mean cutting your rotation short, which is a huge DPS loss. Nahida's support capability is great. She provides a lot of Dendro application, energy, and AoE Dendro damage potential, as well as elemental mastery buffs. Nahida works in just about any team that wants a Dendro character, making her incredibly versatile and a really useful support. Nahida's team flexibility is great. She pairs well with a huge variety of Electro, Hydro, Pyro, and even other Dendro characters. Nahida has tons of different team comps she can work well in, and almost every team that wants a Dendro character can be improved by having Nahida on the team. Nahida's free-to-play friendliness is good. Her overall versatility makes her incredibly valuable, and she can also use a variety of free-to-play weapons, including 3-star weapons like the Magic Guide. She also doesn't need as much investment as other characters in order to be good. The major thing that holds her back is that her damage and buffs have been significantly power crept. Nahida's overall rating is good, but not recommended. She's not a bad choice, but hardly an optimal use for your Primo Gems thanks to power creep. To give you an idea, C2 Nahida, which is her best constellation before C6, is still weaker than a C0 Lauma. So despite Nahida being a good character and the best little radish, I would not recommend her for most people. Nahida is recommended for people who just want to collect the Archons. Unfortunately for our little radish god, Lauma power creeps her in basically every significant way, and even C2 Nahida can't really compete with a C0 Lauma, making her not a good choice for a lot of players. Now let's go over Yelan, a secret agent who ties up Tevat's seedy underbelly and remains hidden in the shadows despite looking like this. Yelan is an off-field Hydro applicator and damage dealer. Her main playstyle revolves around using her Elemental Burst to deal off-field Hydro damage. A good way to think about her is like a bow-wielding Xingqiu that does more damage, but doesn't have the same level of utility. Yelan's skill and burst scale off her max HP, which means she doesn't need any attack to deal good damage. This makes 3-star bows like the recurve bow and slingshot outperform many 5-star bows. Playing Yelan is as simple as using her skill, then burst, then switching out and using another character, while Yelan's burst snipes enemies with water shots from off-field. Notably, her elemental burst does not work with characters who used charged attacks or aim shots, only characters who trigger normal attack animations. So let's rate this seductive secret agent who's spawned the most degenerate down bad fan art I've ever seen. Yelan's personal damage is good. Her HP scaling makes her easier to build, but her damage ceiling isn't as high as a lot of other characters that scale off something like attack because of the lack of buffs that increase max HP. So once you get enough crit rate and crit damage on Yelan, it's easier to make her deal pretty good damage, but nothing too crazy. Yelan's support capability is great. She pairs well with any character that triggers normal attacks and works well in basically every team that you can use Xingqiu in. Consistent off-field hydro application is incredibly useful, and it's often part of one of the top teams in the game. So even though her off-field damage isn't comparatively as crazy as it once was, her off-field hydro application still makes her a very good support. Yelan's team flexibility is great. She works in tons of team archetypes: Vaporize, Freeze, Bloom, Hyperbloom, Burgeon, as well as lunar teams like Lunar Charged. Few characters can work in so many different types of teams, making Yelan's versatility one of her major strengths. She basically works in any team that Xingqiu does, and he's one of the most versatile supports in the game, and Yelan also works really well with Xingqiu, making her even more flexible. Yelan's free-to-play friendliness is great. Everyone gets a Favonius Warbow for free, and that's one of her best weapons, even outperforming many 5-stars. Her versatility also makes her great for players at many different stages of the game, whether they're just starting out or they're more veterans, and even though her damage is not top tier, it's still good for an off-field character. Yelan's overall rating is good, but not recommended. She is quite the useful character, but oftentimes Xingqiu is enough for your off-field hydro application needs. Because Yelan is a 5-star, it can take a lot of Primo Gems to get her, and if you want to be the most efficient with your Primo Gems, I wouldn't recommend wishing for her if you already have Xingqiu, as your Primo Gems can be put to better use for stronger supports or a top tier damage dealer. Yelan is recommended for players that wish they had a second Xingqiu on their account. Now let's go over Flins, the flashiest and most gentlemanly Undertaker you'll ever meet. Flins is an electro spear wielding on-field damage dealer. His kit seems pretty complicated, but it's actually really easy to understand. His normal attacks are not very important and not even worth leveling up, but his elemental skill is. It gives him a special electro infusion, and he also gets a special version of his skill in this state that deals AoE electro damage and allows him to use a special mini version of his elemental burst afterwards. This special mini version of his elemental burst does a little bit less damage than his regular burst, but it costs significantly less energy, and therefore you'll be able to use it multiple times over a rotation. So to play Flins, you'll use his elemental skill to enter a special electro infusion state, and then you can use his skill once again, which will allow you to use his mini burst, then you just do a few attacks, then you can use his special skill once again, followed by another mini burst. Almost all of Flynn's damage is concentrated into these mini elemental bursts, so you'll want to use them frequently. Like Anefa, Flynn's is designed to be a lunar charged character. Flynn's replaces the electro charge reaction with lunar charge and deals direct lunar charge damage, which ignores defense and is multiplied by 3. So you'll want to make sure the enemy is consistently affected by Hydro to get the best value out of Flynn's. So, just how good is Flins? Will he shock you into the next life, or is he the one who needs life support? Flynn's personal damage is great, provided you're playing him correctly. His damage can be very high thanks to the mechanics of Lunar Charge and the high damage output of his mini bursts. He's far from the best damage dealer in the game, but he's also much better than a majority of the other on-field damage dealers. Flynn's support capability is bad. To play Flins well, you need to build a team around him that caters to his needs, and he is not designed to support the team in any way, only to deal damage. Flynn's team flexibility is okay. You'll want to run him in an electro-charged, aka lunar-charged team. The general party makeup for this team will be Flins, another electro character, a hydro character, and a flex slot that's usually an animo character. Sucrose and Anefa are great with Flins, and a character like Yelan works very well too. Xingqiu is also a pretty good choice, but Xingqiu's rotations with Flins are a little scuffed because Flins does shorter rotations, and Xingqiu is better in longer rotations. Without Anefa, Flins is a lot worse, but he can work well with more free-to-play friendly options like Auroran, so even though he only really works with one team archetype, he still does have a few different options for team members. Flynn's free-to-play friendliness is good. He has a good free-to-play weapon in the Nodcry craftable weapon, and he's a lot easier to build than some other damage dealers because you would rather give him an attack goblet than an electro damage goblet, because most of his damage is considered lunar charge damage, which does not scale with electro damage, but is increased by attack. That being said, at a minimum, you want another good source of off-field hydro for him, which can be the free Cyno you get if necessary. Flynn's overall value is good. He's a solid character and one that will outperform many other electro damage dealers thanks to the properties of lunar charged, but don't expect him to have the longevity of other characters, especially very good support characters. Flynn's is recommended for players that want to play lunar charged or who have a Nefa. Flynn's is a solid damage dealer, but his teams are limited, and he's much more likely to be replaced or benched sooner than other characters. Next, let's go over the Sumeru Chronicled banner and the 6 5-stars it includes. The biggest takeaway is that this is a trap designed to burn your Primo Gems down. The only reason to wish on this Chronicled banner is if you really like a character and just want them on your account. There is a small exception to this, but just know that basically all of these characters have been power crept, so I would not advise people wish on this banner if they want the most powerful characters and to be the most efficient with their Primo Gems. That being said, let's go over the characters, starting with both Dehya and Tighnari. They are standard banner characters, so it's not worth using your limited wishes and Primo Gems to get them when you can already lose your 50-50 to them, and you can also select one of them for free during the anniversary event. On top of that, neither one is very impressive damage-wise, and it's definitely not worth burning your Primo Gems on them just to try and get some Masterless Stella Fortuna, aka level cap juice. Alhaitham is a pretty good character, but honestly, he isn't dealing the majority of damage in his own best teams. Hyperbloom is, and if you already have Alhaitham, Lauma pairs pretty well with him, but with Nahida being power crept by Lauma, Alhaitham also gets power crept even harder. Wanderer is an okay damage dealer, but he has a lot of problems, and what's worse is that his damage is just very far from top tier, so solving his problems is not worth it unless you just love playing him. And with Varka coming out during the Nodcry expansion, I expect Wanderer's value to decrease even further. Cyno is decent in a Hyperbloom setup, but Veressa and Flynn still outperform him by quite a lot, and if you really want an Electro Spear character, I would recommend wishing for Flynn's instead. Nilou is the most interesting case on the Chronicled banner because with the addition of Lauma, her Bloom teams are becoming much stronger. That being said, is it worth it to wish for Nilou if you already want Lauma? I don't think so. Nilou works well in her own niche right now, but I feel like Nefer and or Columbina may make it so Nilou hangs up her dancing shoes once again. If you like Nilou, she is the best character to get from the Chronicled banner, but it's dubious whether she'll continue to have high value or any relevance in the future. With that being said, let's rank the best 5-stars in patch 6.0, aka Luna 1. The 5-star with the highest personal damage is Flynn's. The easiest to build 5-star is Lauma. The 5-star with the highest flexibility is Yelan, then Nahida. The best 5-star for new players is Lauma, then Yelan. The best free-to-play 5-star is Lauma. And the best overall 5-star to wish for is also Lauma. In terms of ranking these 5-stars from best to worst value for your account, Lauma is the best choice, then Yelan, then Flynn's, and lastly it's Nahida. And I never thought I'd see the day when Nahida was the worst choice among 5-stars. But Lauma power creeps her so hard with being almost as versatile, contributing much more damage to the team, and being even more free-to-play friendly. I didn't include the Chronicled Wish banner in this ranking because it's honestly just a banner for collectors, not for people who want the strongest characters for the fewest amount of Primo Gems spent. You could make the argument that Nilou could be an outlier and be included in the list with the other 5 stars, and if she was, she'd make it somewhere either above or below Nahida. But right now, her future is just too uncertain, and we need more Nodcry characters to release so that way we can determine how relevant she's actually going to be. I know all of this can feel a little bit overwhelming, so if you'd like to talk about who is best for you and your account, feel free to come by my Twitch or YouTube streams and we can talk about who is best for you. I stream every day in the mornings Eastern Standard Time, which is the afternoons in Europe and evenings in Asia. So come by and say hi. Links to my Twitch will be in the video description, and when you come by, just don't ask for an account review because that's actually a separate function of the stream and I'll think you're referring to something else. Instead, just say, hey, I saw your video about who to wish for, I liked it and subbed to engage the algorithm and make the robots happy, and I was wondering who's best for my account. From there, we can talk about who would be best for you and how I would approach wishing in patch 6.0. I'm looking forward to seeing you on stream, everyone. That'll be it for this video. I love you, stay jawsome, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.